Let's spend a little bit of time understanding the margin crisis. So, as the world moves away from the traditional SaaS, which was 82%, 80 to 90% of gross margin, to I'm going to call them, for lack of a better term, AI supernovas, which are venture capital subsidized. They only have about 25% gross margin. What's happening now is that as historically the SaaS companies, they would sell access to a tool. So if I am Salesforce, if I am ServiceNow, if I am any other SaaS company, I'm selling access to a tool on a per seat per month license. What is now happening is a transition, slow but surely, a transition to service as a software, where what enterprises want is an outcome, not just a seat license. Can you give me an AI agent for HR that's going to help me shift some cost around running my HR operations? So that's on an outcome basis per resolution. And what's baked into that cost is, I'm going to say, compression of the margin, because the expectation here is that when I'm getting that outcome behind the scenes, that SaaS, that offering, that capability now has to make requests to an AI model, hopefully one of the frontier models, which means that every query that's being run, it has two costs. It has certainly the compute cost, and then it has the token cost. And then as soon as agents get involved, there is an explosion in token consumption, in some cases 10 times, maybe even 100 times, depending upon how complex the task is, right? So the margin is now compressing. So if I'm a traditional SaaS vendor, my margins are now beginning to be squeezed. And there is some evidence that the math doesn't quite work. So as an example, the GitHub Copilot, famously there was a study that they're losing $20 per user in early 2023. I'm sure they'll figure out some ways of getting around it. Replit, they had sub 10% gross margin at peak. Again, they lifted the pricing from 20 to 20 to 30% up, and so on and so forth. So the implication here being that if the AI companies continue to have lower margins than SaaS, maybe Wall Street is going to reward them with a lower multiple. Right? So that's one of the crises. I talked about this one a little bit, but it's worthwhile revisiting this as well, which is the AI cost paradox. So, what's interesting is that as we continue to build bigger and bigger models with better and better architectures on hardware that is more and more expensive, so certainly the training costs tend to go higher and higher. But the inferencing costs to run the same model is declining. The adoption is accelerating. So, that's yet another curve. But the expectation of cost per thousand tokens is declining. So there is something broken in this model tension, which is that building the frontier model is exponentially more expensive.